You know what wasn't a nothing burger was the whole hoo-ha surrounding who killed WCW. We thought we might get the answers here. We thought we might have somebody. They should have brought everybody in and decided a loser, and that person should have their chair should immediately been shot with 5 million volts of electricity. That would have really been a cataclysmic ending to the program. Don't you think? Somebody should have been electrocuted just for the fuck of it, if nothing else.
I think anyone looking for a truthful, honest telling of the downfall of WCW could have used those electric volts, probably.
Well, and we kind of got tipped off, and I love our boys over at Dark Side of the Ring, Evan and Jason, and I'm sure were doing the best they could, but The Rock's company or his in-laws or social circle or quilting circle, whatever, it was the executive producers. Was this kind of like when the executive producer of a Hollywood movie puts his bad acting girlfriend in the thing in one of the starring roles, that The Rock wanted to babyface Eric Bischoff?
Well, clearly that's what it was, yeah. But no, but I think in general there's a problem with, I mean, they've said it too in interviews, that their filmmaking style doesn't rely on the truth.
Well, but
it's more about just let's get narratives, and who cares if everyone's lying or if shit's being put out there that isn't true. We just, we need a buck.
Here is where oh, come on now. They've been out of that cardboard box under the overpass for the last winter and I think the last fall. But here's where I believe that our friend The Rock made the mistake. Is the premise of the program was who killed WCW? Why did this once mighty company, why did it meet its ultimate demise? Who was truly responsible? This 4-part series is going to find out. And regardless of whether you agree that it was Eric Bischoff or it wasn't Eric Bischoff or Eric Bischoff had any degree of culpability along with others, whatever your stance is, he was one of the main suspects, right? You can talk about Turner management. Most people, they just say the boss, whether it was a Brad Siegel or that, what was the other guy's name? Schuster? Siegel and Schuster? No, Siegel and Bill Bush, or Turner management, one of the suits. Or was it Eric Bischoff, or was it Vince Russo, or was it Hulk Hogan? Those are generally the entities bandied about, right? Loosely.
Yeah.
Yes. So how do you have one of the executive producers of the program attempting to get to the bottom of this mystery come out in the last episode and say that one of the suspects, deserves to be on the Mount Rushmore of wrestling promoters, Eric Bischoff? Well, then that kind of tells us what fucking part the goddamn, or what direction the program or narrative the program was going to take from the beginning.
Yeah, and again, we heard from people, some who chose not to be a part of the process, that Eric Bischoff was actively recruiting people to be a part of this documentary series. You don't do that if you think people are going to say, yeah, he fucked up everything. He had no idea what he was doing. He's the cause.
Yeah. National television wants to do a piece on me. Let me call Shitstain up to get his opinion on me for him. But no, that's the thing is that, and I'm not saying that it was Eric Bischoff and these other people are blameless. I'm saying that they pretty much all of them are to blame. And our boy Shitstain definitely got a lot of people telling the truth about him. And Turner management comes off looking as either disinterested or clueless or know nothing, as you would think they would. But the theme through the whole thing has kind of been to, well, Eric, he was a victim of circumstance. And none of the really funny stories or the really stupid money that he spent or the really stupid things that they did or that he did made the final cut as much as the stupid shit from all these other people.
Yeah, they never even brought up that he decided not to work with Mike Tyson right before Vince McMahon did, and that changed everything.
Well, I mean, just
how do you leave that out?
There was no Eric. Also, there was a couple of times where he got that was a fairly unsavory local publicity in the Atlanta papers while a big wig in a fucking Turner company there. That was that concurrent with that time period, was it not?
Yeah, big NBA fans, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, the point is, none of that shit. While I'm talking about everybody else doing these stupid things, which they all did do, there was not as many of those. So anyway,
and you get certain guys like Kevin Nash who will put Bischoff over, and why wouldn't they? He gave them everything. I can understand why Kevin Nash loves Eric Bischoff the way he does. I really do. But it doesn't mean everyone else should.
Well, Nash at the end of the program, not to spoil anything, but he's like, oh, those guys that showed up for work were suckers. I sat on my ass at my house and, watched the Titanic sink on TV. And that's kind of, he was paid more money than almost anybody. If you take Bret Hart out of it or Hogan, possibly, whatever the fuck those deals were, more money than anybody else in WCW. And it took probably, I would say, fewer per capita bumps. And it was like, fuck it, I'm over it. While he's still getting paid for the next however long.
But how many people in this? I mean,
I'm just saying, some of these people were wonderful employees.
That isn't a normal thing in any business. And it shouldn't be in the wrestling business. And multiple people from Russo to Bischoff to Kevin Nash. I mean, technically, you did it too. In 1990, okay, I've just decided I'm going home. Now, you didn't come back. Everyone else came back and in some cases got raises. But WCW is a
place. Well, no, but here was the difference. They weren't paying me. They paid these people to just go home and not work. They had failed in some way miserably, so they'd say, I'll go home. Or they had said, fuck you, I don't like what's going on, and went home. Whether it be Russo, I don't want to be on a booking committee, but he signed a contract, he got to get paid. To these wrestlers, they just go home and get paid. They give a shit. When I went home, I wasn't going to get paid after, I believe, the following 2 weeks, nor did I expect to, because I didn't want to be there. I wasn't going to take their fucking money because I didn't want to be there. I was going to do something else. But they would all just, by this point, that company run by who was paying people to just go home and sit on their fucking ass and twiddle their dick. Does it sound familiar?
It sounds very familiar, and there's something to be said about that, but that's kind of the point that not enough people hammered home on this. Yeah, WCW ended because it got canceled and Eric Bischoff's team didn't buy it. And WCW became atrocious and pay-per-views started dying under Russo. Bischoff had the success, but if the costs hadn't run out of control, if the losses hadn't grown to be out of control, it's a different conversation. And again, there wasn't much accountability or responsibility about just what that budget was. When all of a sudden you're losing all that money every year, why would they keep it? Or why would they keep it on the air?
Well, there wasn't a clear explanation either of how, they talked about the shady bookkeeping practices where Eric at one point even said, well, we were getting a lot of the Turner expenses were put against WCW. And I think I mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago, when we talked about that show, it worked both ways because they never explained how the company went out of business and the backstage footage they're showing is, I'm out of a job and our futures. But some of these guys, and they didn't delineate who and why, still got paid for a year and a half. And that's why they didn't go and join the WWF.
Yeah, because it would have been a massive pay cut for the biggest stars there. NWO,
Yes.
Goldberg, any of the Sting.
Yes.
It would have been a pay cut to go work for WWE for a minimum guarantee because they
But
were
they
making
didn't.
stupid money from WCW, from Turner Broadcasting, actually, because
Yes.
WCW was done.
That's what I'm saying, but they didn't explain how the fuck that some of this worked. Where didn't it benefit WCW that the highest paid guys are actually on the Turner Broadcasting books rather than the WCW was sold and they glossed over it with, but that didn't mean that all the contracts went with it. And that was all the explanation. Because that had gone back years to where Turner Home Entertainment, I think, if not helping some with, no, they didn't help Crockett, but there was talks of it. But then they bought the company, and there was talk in 1989 that Turner Home Entertainment might sweeten some of the wrestlers' contracts because of the VHS tapes at the time that they were releasing. That because the only, I mean, they had all these movies, right? But think about this: how many VHS tapes is a classic movie going to sell when it's released past Gone with the Wind, Wizard of Oz, children classic from Disney, whatever, right? They were selling shitloads of the wrestling VHSs.
Yeah.
So
a lot of the times back then, if you actually wanted to get a classic movie, it wasn't easy to find a cassette for sale.
Yeah.
The video store would have to order them sometimes to get them in.
Well, that because there wasn't money in it in terms of quantity. No, they weren't selling quantities of all, titles that were available. Nevertheless, so it wasn't a new idea. And the point is, what I'm making, finally, I'll beat around it till I hit it, is that wasn't that benefiting WCW if the biggest earning stars were being paid by another entity in TBS and wasn't on their fucking books somehow? Weren't they? Wasn't TBS just a shady place doing accounting overall? And
yeah,
that's where they started this with the AOL Time Warner merger, which Ted Turner's son called a Ponzi scheme and predicted it would all fall apart. And that I loved hearing Ted Turner was, and this was, I know, 23 years ago or whatever, but Ted had never been online, didn't have a cell phone, my kind of guy, right? But then that's where they started it. And the merger is, I think, with the ominous music especially, you're led in the direction of, well, these are going to be the heels for this show. But Truman Capote, or Brad Siegel, I'm sorry, said that now he was the one trying to get WCW back on track. And I had written down, what the fuck would he know? And then later on in the program, he admits, but I didn't know what I was doing, how to do that. And Medusa called it a shit show. And Janie Engel said Brad Siegel didn't know anything about wrestling. And then he said, I couldn't fix it. But the statistic was stark. And again, with this whole subject, we may be, was the past prologue. Are we visiting this again in modern times? Is this a cyclical, depending on what pronunciation you enjoy, a situation where there's going to be another wrestling promotion that falls a fucking part every 25 years now?
Well, the difference is WCW had to worry about who was funding it and, of course, where it was going to air. Tony has to worry about where it's going to air, but streaming changes things, and he has no worries about who's funding it.
Well, but here is a statistic that we might need to start watching for here in the future. In WCW, the uncensored pay-per-view from March of one year to March the next year, 1999 did 325,000 buys, and 2000 did 60,000. That's fucking brutal. So and obviously they can't go from 325,000 to 60,000 because nobody gets 325,000 anymore. But AEW has been doing pretty consistently on the pay-per-views that is their most loyal fan obviously is going to order the pay-per-view. Let's see, if this starts reflect, because with WCW, it was ratings kind of first, and then the bottom fell out of pay-per-view and houses.
With AEW, it's been houses, the attendance, then ratings. Pay-per-view has started to slip from the reports we've seen. And again, we don't have that. It's not like there's a public forum for the real numbers out there. You got to trust what you hear. And some of that comes from AEW, unfortunately. But they're increasing their pay-per-view schedule, remember. They're going to pretty much go monthly. So this is going to be a big test with decreasing popularity, decreasing interest in attending shows. Now more shows, $50 a pop. That still is tough for people to wrap their heads around. Not everyone thinks $50 is a reasonable rate for pay-per-view.
Well, WCW was monthly in 1999, 2000, and what were they charging? But adjusted for in today's money, as the kids say, I bet you it was $30. So is that pretty much the same thing, right?
Maybe.
After 25 years. Nevertheless, did you catch the line from Bischoff when they talked about WCW ended up showing a loss of $62 million in the year 2000?
See, that's what I'm talking about. $62 million.
He said, there may be a grain of truth to that. $62 million. They lost. That's with charging for tickets and charging for pay-per-views and taking in whatever money from merchant, etc., and they still lost that. And that was 25 years ago. What's that in today's money? A fuck ton. Actually, it's a metric fuck ton. We're on the fuck metric scale on the fuck tons in that. And so then they portrayed it. If Eric said, hey, to Brad Siegel, do you want me to sell this company? Oh, we don't sell things. We buy things. I sound like I'm doing Barnett trying to do Truman Capote Siegel, but he didn't want him to. Or didn't want him to. But then when the FCC approves the big merger between AOL and Time Warner, and Brian, you know more about this than I do because you have not only the geographic closeness to the Big Apple up there, but you're also the Wall Street wolf, the stock market maven. That .com bubble kind of popped around about that time from what they were saying on the program. And what kind of financial shape was AOL in all of a sudden at that point?
It was a shit show. There's a really good book. I don't remember the exact name of it, but it's an oral history of HBO. Because that's all in the middle of this. And you get all the executives talking about what it was like. There were people who realized that AOL's built on a house of cards. And they still went with it. And a lot of websites went away. A lot of the .com businesses that people predicted were going to explode didn't. And AOL, it's crazy to think if you grow up now, you don't understand how for a few years there it was, internet was AOL for a lot of people. And I know people still have AOL email addresses. Crazy enough. But AOL means nothing today, and AOL was in charge. Steve Case. It was a disaster.
And they had, again, Ted Turner's son said they gave him a seat at the table or whatever, but no control of anything. And at that point, I think this Brad Siegel was probably trying to fucking help his own case or cover his own ass or whatever. One of the things that he's been spending a lot of his time on is his fucking lunatic show over here. WCW has gone through all these hirings and firings and lawsuits and bullshit because nobody can get their shit together. And so now he's like, yeah, let's get this the fuck out of here. And now, did you also hear that apparently at this point in time, one or two of the boys at least were apparently burying the bone with Brad Siegel's niece. Have you heard about this?
Well, Scott Hall was famously seeing her. I don't know about other boys.
Well, I heard Raven's name bandied around by someone on the interwebs. She must have been an interesting girl.
And he hates the rest. He's like, they're all con artists and liars.
Yeah.
Yeah, because your niece was dating him and you were trying to run the show for a while.
Whoo. Interesting girl. Anyway, so that's when Bischoff goes and finds Fusion. Have they fused one thing to another thing when they make the Fusion? Brian, is that where that comes from?
I don't know.
But nevertheless, Fusion. I don't. Whatever that's what I said.
Fusion.
It's a color in between lavender and purple. Fusion. Right, and you know what? I love though. You can tell Eric Bischoff's face lights up. He loves to bullshit through big deals like this. When he said, and so I went to fucking, Spike Huber, the big Hollywood producer who put me onto this guy, who put me onto that, and we talked and and made the pitch, and he loves to do that. That would be my 7th level of Dante's Inferno, having to go to rooms and try to pitch ideas to people equally as full of bullshit as me over and over for the rest of my life. His face lights up when he talks about it. And he had put the thing together, and supposedly they had $5 million, and they had secured funding for $60 million or whatever. But then Jamie Kellner gets the TBS job and hated wrestling and sabotaged the deal in short version. But Stu Snyder finally pops up, who at one point was a Turner Home Entertainment guy in the 90s, who ended up becoming the COO of the WWE in the 2000 and 2010s or whatever. The COO, was he number 2 or number 3 under Vince?
COO is usually number 2.
So
CEO, then COO.
Well, there you and then there you go.
Yeah, and usually, I mean, if the CEO is the chairman of the board, it makes it easy. But sometimes there could be a separate chairman and president. But usually CEO, COO.
So the point of all coincidences of all things, this guy that in the early 90s, when WCW was a guy in Turner Home Entertainment, but now, 10 years later, he's the COO of the WWE, and he knows all these people. He knew Brad Siegel, and he's sitting there all smug. Well, I knew Brad well. I called him, first of all, to check in. We've known each other all our lives, right? Well, we're so good. He saved me from drowning once, and he gave me the fucking CPR, and he put his lips on mine. He didn't say all those things, but they knew each other. And think about what Stu Snyder would have thought when he's now the number 2 guy behind Vince McMahon, and he knows the guy that's been, by pure happenstance, before Snyder was ever in the wrestling business, they worked together, the guy that's been on and off for the past year and a half, trying to run WCW, running it in one direction or another, into a wall, into a tree, whatever. So they had to know more in Stamford, really, now that this line is drawn, first of all, than almost anywhere else of what was going on when this thing became a lame duck, a red herring, a albatross, or whatever animal, vegetable, or mineral you want to compare it to. And so Snyder has got to be thinking, I can get over with Vince McMahon by giving him a sweet deal on his only competition. And Siegel was bound to think, I've got a guy that will guaranteed get this fucking thing out of my way before they fire me down here. Right?
Well, it's one of those things that's always been floated out there. And Dave Meltzer has reported that he was told in advance of the sale that word coming out of meetings at Titan Tower with Stu Snyder was that they're never going to sell it to Eric Bischoff. It's not going to happen. No matter what you hear, that's not going to be the buyer. And again, Eric Bischoff offered, what was it, $63 million?
62, but who's counting? But here's the thing, was it phrased like that, or did he say Bischoff's never going to get it? Because here's what I'm saying, a lot of other people didn't bring this up, and of course, nobody was cross-examined under a hot fucking sun lamp on this program, but there could, all these things could be true in conjunction with each other, in that Siegel at first thought, you know, at least we can get this thing away from me and they'll buy it, and, you know, whatever, it could still have been a program. But when Kellner comes along and says, fuck it, we don't want wrestling on the network, because the original idea that they both said, that Siegel or that Snyder said, was that, yeah, we could have two separate brands and then we could do the, you know, big rivalry or whatever. But they found out with the WWF TV deals, they were exclusive. Their existing networks, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but their existing networks wouldn't allow them to have a program from any company they owned, whether it's called Dingbat Wrestling or not, on somebody else's air, correct?
I believe so.
So they had an opening to just get rid of wrestling entirely, which is what the new corporate ownership wanted, and the new blah, blah. They were trying to get rid of the company, and they ended up with a perfect way to get rid of everything. And Snyder knew that he was always going to get something, whether they were going to work out a deal to keep the separate company alive on their air, but they were going to have the sweet deal because they were best friends. For fuck's sake.
You know, and the other thing is, everyone wants to blame Jamie Kellner, and he just passed away. And certainly he's the one who
time.
And he's the one who made the decision. But what decision was he supposed to make? He came into a company with all these different divisions, and this one's losing $60 million a year, and every metric they have is going down. You talked about the pay-per-view buys before, ratings, obviously, not to where we are now, but they were going down from where they had been. Everything's on the way down. It's disorganized. Its reputation within Turner is awful. There's no leadership, and it's losing money hand over fist. You could understand why, based on that. It's not like he took a company that was profitable and said, cancel it. He took something that was a major drain, and there were no signs of plugging the drain.
Well, and also, they had made such asses of themselves, because we're not even just talking about dramatic financial turnaround and major losses, but also lawsuits and bad publicity and just and doing the shit that Russo had him doing on television. Couldn't have impressed anybody in terms of the lewdness and crudeness and whatever the fuck other terms they used last week. So that's the thing. That's what I've always said in wrestling. The old saying is the boys are their own worst enemy, but sometimes it's the business, the company, the promotion. When you let bad attention be called to yourself in the wrong venue, that's how you lose TV. When a TV station general manager gets mad at something that one old lady in fucking, you know, Butchertown complained about, or whether it's an arena because you had the hardcore match or the street fight and the fucking crutch broke and stabbed little, you know, tiny fucking Tim in the heart in the third row or whatever the fuck, right? It can be this way too. If they'd only been losing $5 or $10 million a year and the goddamn nobody had sued and it wasn't a shit show where everybody was being described as on stimulants of various kinds and all this other bullshit.
And it became embarrassing. Again, what they said about when Russo came there and started introducing things, advertisers did not find the show friendly anymore. Whatever limited advertisers found wrestling friendly before that. So even that in the toilet.
Hey, as a matter of fact, State Farm told them to get a new neighbor. So you see how that happens. Apparently, you don't have State Farm.
I know the commercial. I didn't expect a State Farm joke in the middle of this. Of all the things,
that's what I'm saying. Is they were waving flags over their heads, going, "Look at us! We are going to embarrass you and cost you money somehow." To the new ownership, and that is the result of the efforts of Eric Bischoff and Vince Russo, and to some extent, equally shitty booking from Kevin Nash and equally egotistical behavior from Hulk Hogan and whatever the case, as well as a lack of support from the corporate end.
So the 60-something million that Eric and his group offered for WCW was for all of the contracts that he would have had the right to pay those contracts that Vince didn't pick up? Like, what exactly was he buying for 60-something million dollars?
Well, no, see, that's the thing. Is that wasn't broken down. We don't have it in detail, but two of the things he was buying, he thought were the Monday and Thursday time slots. And that was, they said, guaranteed in for a couple of years. That, as Eric said, the beachfront real estate would have been tied up for a couple of years. So and that figure also was the loss. Did he just say, "Hey, I'll give you for this thing what you lost last year on it, and just turn it all over to me"? And
then what happens to those contracts?
But there's no detail gone into. I'm sure he believed that he could, manipulate everybody to come into work for him or whatever. And
they didn't they didn't really talk about here. He was preparing to come back. He had Joey Styles.
Yeah.
Right? He had a whole crew of people that were going to be on the new WCW, and it all just went away just like that. I mean, a lot of people who were around it always said there was something fishy about everything with Stu Snyder and the way it went down. But
Bob Ryder, as a matter of fact, said that. And, Bob was all over the internet back in those days. But Kevin Sullivan said he smelled shenanigans of some kind. I can't remember how he phrased it. But that was the low price is still not explained by the lack of television time slot, because they sold the WCW intellectual property, all of the tape library, the pay-per-views, the whole 9 yards for $2.5 million. And then
plus advertising commitments.
Well, no, I said, and then they promised that they would spend about another, $1.7 million in advertising with Turner. So they just pre-sold advertising they probably would have sold anyway. So really, $2.5 million they got all the video. They just wanted rid of that shit. Turner Home Entertainment, if they couldn't have made $2.5 million on the library, and
they had that library for years and did nothing with it.
Well, but Jerry Jarrett also was involved a period of time trying to put something together to buy it, but nobody was going to get it except Brad's best friend, Stu. So that's, Snyder denied any advanced knowledge of the deal going south with Bischoff, but he told people in January, as we mentioned, that Bischoff ain't going to get it. That was never said on this program. And
other than Guy Evans, there were no voices that studied this or reported on it. He wrote the book after the fact, but no matter what you think of Dave Meltzer or anyone, he was reporting on it. Him, no one. I mean, it was no one except Guy Evans. He was the only one commenting other than the wrestlers and the staff.
And think about this with Snyder and The Rock, who was intimately involved in these negotiations. No, Snyder said, if TBS had gotten a $60 million deal, they would have taken it. They would have kept it on TV. Or they would have taken the deal, but that would have kept it on TV. If they had said they didn't want wrestling on the network to begin with, and they didn't want the headache of the company, so they didn't take a $60 million deal, because then they're stuck with wrestling for another however many years. They just got rid of the whole thing, and one old friend did another old friend of actually both friends ended up with a favor. As I said, because Siegel got the favor that he didn't have that company driving him nuts and didn't have boys from that company fucking his niece. And it looks good for the new corporate owners. And Snyder looks good for getting Vince the entire tape library of WCW for 15 years or whatever for less than he was spending to shoot a week of Raw. And then Stu admitted in the WWF, Vince ran the show, and from his experience at TBS, WCW would have failed regardless without one of the bigwigs saying, no, this show has my blessing.
That's one of the interesting things about if Bischoff had been able to purchase it, and if they had a television home, it would have been the first time WCW, since Jim Crockett Promotions, had one person in charge. Who knows what Bischoff would have been like under those circumstances when he really had to care about the money.
Oh, well, he may have had a bit more of a governor on him, as they say, if it was, if he was directly responsible for these two guys in Hollywood or whatever, barking down his neck about their money. But, and that's, speaking of money, that's another reason why we still needed more detail on exactly what the deal was with the biggest guys' contracts, because Booker said he took half the money because they offered guys that had existing contracts that were going to get paid no matter what. We'll pay you half and get you out of it, and you can come to work, and we'll start paying you. And theoretically, if somebody had any confidence in themselves or wanted to actually work, if you could get half of your existing contract up front right now and then start working at another job, wouldn't you technically still probably come out ahead? Especially if it's the WWF, but a bunch of guys wanted to sit home and just get the check for nothing for a year and a half or whatever. And Booker took half his money and said, well, let's fucking go to work.
But quite frankly, that's where Vince was wrong. And it may have upset some of the guys in the locker room, but he should have made a deal.
Yeah.
So those WCW guys, it would have saved the invasion and it would have changed everything.
It would have been the biggest money pay-per-view that they had ever done. No matter whether it was a WrestleMania or SummerSlam, no matter when they did it, if they'd had the names, but they didn't. Because, and again, I know Nash is disgruntled about everything. He might have figured, well, because him and Hall was already gone by that point, wasn't he? But Nash was probably making twice as much as what he knew that he would make with Vince, or that Vince would pay him, if not more than that. So he may have been on the right end of it. Fuck it. When he finally came back, didn't he tear his quad within a couple of weeks, and then he came back for a match and tore his quad again?
Yeah, remember when the NWO came in, Hogan worked with Rock at WrestleMania, Steve Austin worked with Scott Hall. Kevin Nash was just in Scott Hall's corner. He didn't work.
So he may have had the math on his side. He probably came out better sitting on his ass at home. But everybody else, I thought, if you really wanted to establish yourself as an icon in wrestling, go get on that goddamn invasion and make that fucking giant pay-per-view, big money, whatever. But everybody sat it out. So there you go. But again, and then the little last few minutes, the little postscript of the thing was, and then in 2002, Vince calls Bischoff, and Bischoff says, I knew this was my opportunity. Your opportunity to what? He's thrilled to get fucking jobs, isn't he? He's thrilled when his phone rings. He became the Raw general. Well, that's just an annoyance to me at this point. It's like, why people leave me the fuck alone? God damn it. More shit I got to do. But he becomes the Raw general manager, and he was good at that. He was a good television performer. We've said that many times. But then they finished him up and they wanted Cena to see. I never saw this because that was my non-WWF period. But they wanted Cena to throw him in the back of a garbage truck, but he said, "Oh, no, no." And I thought, well, good, some backbone. He said, "I want Vince to do it." So they had Vince put him. They called him up to fire him. And then they want to throw him in the back of a garbage truck. I wouldn't even put a pumpkin on my head. I'll show up and somebody give me their finish, but you're not throwing me in the fucking garbage truck. But they threw him in a garbage truck. So there you go. And then that was the end of except Bischoff choked up when Nash verbally blew him because they played that clip for him. If they'd have played The Rock, what he said about the Mount Rushmore thing, I think he might have broken down into sobbing tears. Ugly crying, as the girls call it. Yeah, well, corporate took most of the heat on this, but I'm trying to think, did any of these people look good to the naked eye, to the untrained eye, to the lay person out there who wasn't following this in real time, who hasn't studied it since? Did anybody in this program come off looking like they were innocent parties, or did they all look like they not knew what they were doing?
I think certain people came out looking good. Booker T, I thought, looked really good in this thing.
Well, no, I'm talking about any of the suspects. I'm talking about the people that were being. Yeah, nobody said Booker T killed.
No. I think to the average person watching this, they probably think Eric Bischoff is. They probably think based on this that things were really unfair for Eric Bischoff, and that he's a nice guy who was trying his hardest and had a plan to save it. Because that's what was presented here. This was the Eric Bischoff story. There were a few voices that said no, like Bret Hart. But this was the Eric Bischoff story of WCW.
See, where they were able to disguise some of that, they never mentioned that Bischoff also went into partnership with Jason Hervey. If they'd have mentioned that, then 90% of the audience would have immediately known, fuck this guy then. He's an idiot. That would have been one of those triggers that the kids talk about, where instantly you know something and you, boom, there it is.
Well, there it is, another honest, thoughtful project from The Rock and Dark Side of the Ring.
An honest and thoughtful project from, if he was to trademark that, Honest and Thoughtful Productions.
Jericho's more likely to trademark something we say on the show than Dwayne Johnson is, to be fair.
Well, if I were you, I'd file the paperwork to make sure that we get the whole thing. And because, it's business, Brian. And WCW, they didn't know how to run a business, but you know how to run a business, so trademark that phrase, and then we'll open up that site, and we will use our friends at Shopify. And they'll make us a bunch of money off of another thoughtful and honest fucking whatever the fuck it is you said. Write these things down.
Yeah, you may be onto something. I like this idea of starting a store with Shopify. I don't know what I'm saying. With Shopify! This show's off a cliff.
Yes, as I was mentioning earlier, if you've got a great idea, folks, on how you'd like to make some money, a product you'd like to sell, or a service that you would like to provide, or maybe you just like to talk people into sending you money and you need somebody really experienced as a con artist to help you, well, I don't know if Shopify is experienced as con artists. They merely build and maintain these sites for fine, hardworking people all around the world.
That's right.
See, I'm doing your part now. From the United States of America all the way to Lithuania. And if you're a con artist, then you need to give them a special knock. You just go like that. And then they'll let you in a separate room where you can talk under the cone of silence. But Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Ladies and gentlemen, when you've got that germ of an idea and you want that germ to multiply and modify and replicate until it grows and creeps over the land and takes over like the blob, and you're Your tentacles, your feelers of your business, your money-making apparatus have reached the far corners of the globe, trickling around like a thick syrup, enveloping all that it comes in contact with. Well, Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the United States, and they can do your trickling too. And their extensive help resources are there to support your success every step of the way. And you don't have to just sell your own stuff. You can curate products to sell from the brands you love, just gathering things just willy-nilly from everywhere and selling them to people with impunity. Somehow, I don't know how Shopify will tell you how. And you can grow your average order value with the Shopify Bundles app, because you can not only create, but you can also sell bundles. I guess you got one guy with the rope or the tape or whatever, bundling everything up, and the other one is the salesperson. And Shopify is a no-excuses business partner. You can sell without needing to code or design. Just bring your ideas, and Shopify they'll drain your brain and use all of your ideas into something gorgeous for you and your various minions. And right now, Brian, I know this is the best part. You can sign up for a $1 a month trial period if you go to shopify.com/JCE. JCE all in lowercase, by the way. Now, how in the world can this not be worth $1 a month? I mean, it's almost ridiculous. They're almost giving it away because they are so convinced. They are so confident that you're going to love it. You're going to be hooked on this like crack. You're going to be mainlining the Shopify, baby. You got any of that Shopify around here? I'm really needing some Shopify, and that's why they're starting you out at dirt cheap, and then you'll never be able to give this up because you will love it.
That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. That's not even how Shopify works. You're not going to get addicted to Shopify. You're going to enjoy using it because it's going to help you and help your business. Ignore everything else you have heard.
You're not going to be able to do without it. You're not going to be able to do without it. And that's where they got you. And then you'll be with them forever because it's so good. You're going to have Shopify on your back. It's going to knock that monkey right off of there. So if you'd like a big hit of Shopify right now for only $1 a month, go to shopify.com/JCE, and you're going to get the $1 a month free trial, or not $1 a month free. It's $1 a month. It can't be free. The $1 a month trial period, which anybody can afford. And my God, you walk through a homeless encampment. Everybody's on Shopify. Even they've got that much money. As a matter of fact, Shopify made the homeless community what it is today. So go to shopify.com/JCE. No matter what stage your business is in,